Hey everyone, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest. I am here today with Lawrence Field. He is the WaterIQ's founder and CEO. We're going to be talking about harmful algae blooms, why they are a growing problem, and the solutions that are available to address this issue.
Good to
So,
see you, Bob.
yeah, great to have you here, and I appreciate you having some time to talk to me about this. We did talk about a little bit about this earlier this year and even at WEFTech last year, but really
Right.
wanted to share this conversation to a broader audience as well. Starting first, let's talk about what a harmful algae bloom is. Let's set the stage for everyone so we know what we're talking about from the get-go. I'm sure a lot of people do, but for those uninitiated, what is a harmful algae bloom?
So, a harmful algae bloom is a problem that is really becoming an epidemic, Bob. So, what's
Mhm.
happened is there's been an increase of nutrient pollution that's occurred. And nutrient pollution is caused by excess nitrogen and phosphorus that flows into waterways. And as a result of uh, increased development, also, and that has to do with fertilizers,
Mhm.
also animal manure, sometimes the effluence of sewage and treatment
Mhm.
plants, stormwater runoff. Uh, you're seeing an excess of nitrogen and phosphorus, and the EPA likes to call that nutrient pollution.
Mhm.
And so too much water uh, in the water can cause algae to grow rapidly. And there are two types of algae. There's green algae and blue-green algae. And blue-green algae is what many people are concerned with because it's actually toxic.
Mhm.
And so blue-green algae, when it gets into the water, it releases a toxin, cyanotoxin, and that toxin is extremely dangerous. If you drink it, it can be harmful to humans. There's unfortunately uh, not only can cause everything from seizures, fevers, respiratory arrest, but it's also harmful for dogs. We're seeing a number of cases now where dogs will drink water or get into a water body that has harmful algae, and unfortunately, it can cause death to dogs. And then we're seeing, frankly, the most fish kills this year than we've ever seen. And so those are some of the problems with cyanobacteria, which is blue-green algae.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like you said, it is a growing problem. You're talking about the increase in fish kills. I've heard this thing about the dogs as well, which is terribly unfortunate for a lot of hikers who love to bring their dogs with them. Like their dog might
Right.
just lap in a stream or something, and it turns into a really terrible issue for the dog. But what do you see as being kind of like contributing to the rise of this issue? You mentioned a few things with like fertilizers and stuff like that. Is it really an agricultural issue, or is there a lot more baked into this than what we realize?
Well, it has to do with not just increased fertilizer and developments that have been uh, having the runoff that goes
Hmm.
into the drinking water or the water sources. But frankly, there's also uh, leaks in septic systems.
Hmm.
And there's also, again, for whatever reason, we seem to be having warmer temperatures. And we are getting calls from drinking water utilities that that are calling earlier than normal, saying the weather is warm this year, and we're seeing algae inside our drinking water plants or wastewater treatment plants earlier than we've seen in the past. And I think that's a result of one, the problem is becoming larger because of this excess nutrient pollution, but also because, again, warm weather is part of the catalyst for the increase.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and just to your point too on the wastewater streams as well, I know that a lot of states and even the federal government are really working hard on phosphorus limits too, and it's posing a lot of difficulty for those utilities, but that's another conversation for another time entirely, I would say. So when we're talking about this issue, what have utilities usually or traditionally turned to help solve this problem? What are some of the technologies or the resources that they've used to try and solve it?
Well, at the reservoir itself, let's break it down into outside the plant and then inside the plant.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
oftentimes utilities will purchase water uh, from groundwater from lakes.
Yeah.
And so those lakes are becoming EPA hazards. They're
Hmm.
and if you start with the reservoir having more pollution, more algae to begin with, that's a real issue that they have more, uh, algae on the front end. Also, because we're having some drought conditions in certain states. I'm in California right now,
Hmm.
and we're having, unfortunately, another uh, uh, dry year.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, they're uh, having to use reclaimed water. And reclaimed water uh, has not been filtered to the point where it kills the, or, water coming in with filtered water has increased levels of algae. And so I would say more that we use recycled water, the more we're going to see this continued growth epidemic of algae. So we are that's outside the drinking plant.
Hmm.
Once it gets inside the a drinking plant, let's just say a drinking water utility or wastewater treatment plant, uh, they do have filters, and there's filtration systems. But then after the filtration system, the water then is in either a sediment tank, and they're in wastewater treatment plants, usually refer to them as clarifiers. Actually, drinking water utilities also call them clarifiers. Um, the typical, historically, there's been a use of chemicals to kill the algae, and there's been increased regulation. Uh, Certain countries now are completely outlawing uh, algicides that have been used historically, such as copper sulfate, and they are banned in many parts of the world. They're being more regulated in the United States. And so we are now starting to see RFPs from utilities around the world, as well as the United States, that they want a non-chemical free solution to deal with their algae.
Yeah. Well, and that leads me to the like alternatives. I know that you guys have this whole ultrasonic thing essentially. Could you talk a little bit about what that alternative is and how you guys are approaching this and why you're getting so many more proposals from folks looking for your technology?
So it's interesting. We came out with a product that we introduced at WEFTech. Uh, and this industry technology has been around for 10 plus years. But think of it as in the earlier years more like a BlackBerry. Uh, Oftentimes, history repeats itself. So the greatest product achievements might start humbly, but then early adapters work out these kinks to solve these problems, and so designers keep striving for constant improvement. And so what we did was invest millions of dollars to take this technology to the next level. And so and we've done that by several ways that make our product completely unique. And so one of our challenges is that the earlier versions of this ultrasonic technology still had some kinks in it. And so with the millions of dollars that we spent in engineering, we have made a product that actually is more reliable. So instead of using a piezo that emits these transducers that is glued together, we actually went back, and because I was in the ultrasonic business inspecting pipelines for a number of years, we went back to the piezo manufacturers and we're using the same type of assembly that is used ultrasonic for in medical use or for industrial use. So instead of gluing these piezos together, we actually use a type of a bolt. And as a result of that, it's much more reliable. It doesn't break down. We also have a process. These can generate a lot of heat. And so we've invented a cooling system in ours. And so inside this transducer head that emits 2000 frequencies, we have a cooling system that no longer causes an overheating problem. But also, we've invented the first all digital circuit board. And why that's as opposed to an analog board. Why that's important is we have been able with this digital board, circuit board that emits, in our case, we emit 2001 frequencies, and they have to be precise. And we've been able to perfect the exact frequencies at the exact levels. And so some of the earlier adapters might have used 80 frequencies. We have over 2000 frequencies. More importantly, we know exactly the frequency to the kilohertz. And so we have a new circuit board that we've worked with and introduced in our product that is the industry's most precise board that causes the frequencies that we're trying to hit between 20 kilohertz and 2000 kilohertz that actually hit every single frequency right on the nose. And so again, it's just think of it as early technology, and we have now taken it to the next generation. And the one other feature that is really innovative, historically, these transducer heads are in the water and they're filled in an algae filled environment, Bob. And so we actually have an application on ours that it's covered with a material called sharklet. And sharklet material is a fine, it looks like in a microscope, almost a sandpaper, but it's the same type of skin that sharks have. And this technology is used in hospitals and it's used in implants. So if something is applied with this sharklet, bacteria can't attach to it. So if you open a hospital door, it has this hospital bed, but also even an implant now has this sharklet. So we were able to get an exclusive license with this technology for our ultrasonic product. So when it comes out of the water, instead of being covered with algae, it's actually clean. And so it makes it, one, it doesn't clog up with algae, but two, it requires much less maintenance for a wastewater treatment operator or a drinking water utility operator that would have to clean the
Hmm.
algae off because it would clog up.
Yeah. And just to clarify too, so that everyone understands, like this unit goes into like the body of water basically, and it emits this frequency, and it disrupts the basically the food chain for this algae to even grow and live, basically, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, so it actually it doesn't kill anything except algae itself. There's no other
Oh,
byproduct
okay.
that it kills. We have right now doing a study with the University of Florida just to prove that it doesn't even kill zooplankton. One of the problems with
Wow.
chemicals is that it's almost like chemotherapy. If you
Mm.
have going through chemotherapy, you can get rid of the cancer, but there's some other things that it kills as well. And so
Hmm.
our product actually doesn't touch anything else in the water column. So
Oh, okay.
the one of the things that our product does do, though, it does prevent biofilm, and that's a different process. Um, and so it doesn't kill the bacteria that uh, biofilm attaches to, and that's really important for, in particular, clarifiers. They'll see a
Hmm.
biofilm build up on the outside walls of a clarifier. So our unit emits these pulses every 36 minutes. It will emit these 30 or 2,000 uh, pulses.
Hmm.
It's every second. It's on for 6/10 of a second, off 4/10 of a second. So it's this pulsing action. This pulsing action actually causes this artificial turbulence. So biofilm, it actually eliminates the environment. Think of a river that's flowing fast that is nice and clean. And so this turbulence actually uh, creates an environment that bacteria doesn't attack to the walls of a
Hmm.
clarifier. And so that results in biofilm not being able to grow. And
Yeah.
so even though we don't kill anything except the algae, and that's because this critical structural resonance that we talked about in the past, that I'll mention in a second, but this turbulence actually makes the bacteria that biofilm grows, uh, it creates an environment that they're not able to latch onto and colonize.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm just going to say, and the reason why we don't kill anything else is that our frequencies actually these frequencies cause the vesicles inside the algae to burst, and they then become dormant. They sink to the bottom of the water, and over a couple of days, beneficial bacteria will kill the algae. For algae to survive, it has to go up and down every single day, and it has to have photosynthesis to thrive. It needs sunlight. And so once it's at the bottom of a water feature, it doesn't able to have that cycle of rising every day. And at the bottom, then it's taken care of with beneficial bacteria.
Yeah. Incredible. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that study because it this is such a cool technology and the concepts behind it are like so interesting to me. I wanted to before I let you go, get to our last question here, which is, like, how do you see this concern of harmful algae blooms evolving over time? Obviously, you're hoping that you're going to solve it, but like, could you talk a little bit about how you see things moving through 2022, where you think things will be in 2023, and like, how do you see this issue evolving over the next couple of years?
So you're correct in saying that there are regulations to try to decrease the amount of phosphorus and nitrogen.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a little bit analogous to uh, Ukraine and the oil crisis, meaning that it would be nice to have everyone change to solar instantly and we don't have to rely on Russian oil. That's not going to happen overnight. And so until we, over the next decades, uh, decrease our excess nutrient pollution, you're going to have to deal with algae.
Hmm.
And so we are just like, people are going to have to deal with algae for decades to come. And I do think that there are going to be stronger regulations to uh, rid companies of harmful chemicals. And so I really see our business having a tremendous opportunity. You do see aeration also in some uh, uh, plants, and aeration does help keep the water moving and dissolved oxygen levels going up, but aerators themselves don't kill the algae. They
Hmm.
they can help the water become again higher in dissolved oxygen, but they don't claim and they can't actually kill the algae. So we work with a number of water utilities that use both aeration and our ultrasonic technology, and they work hand in hand very well together.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Lawrence. I really appreciate your time today and talking about this issue. We know that it is an increasingly important one, and especially for all the recreation that everyone's probably gearing up for this summer. You really want to make sure your or bodies of water are clean. For everyone who's watching, please check out the video description below. We'll have some links to some of the resources from WaterIQ so you can read a little bit more about their technology and the things that they're actually doing to solve these problems across the country. And once again, Lawrence, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I appreciate the conversation.
Bob, thanks for all your hard work.